Welcome back to another episode of Stopping By. I have an Oklahoma City fan here, Evan Kuck. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jared. How are you, buddy?
Doing good, doing good. And how you feeling about the win against the Timberwolves last night?
That was a big game, man. We've had some big wins recently. We've won, beat the Nuggets, beat the Wolves, beat the Celtics. Had some good runs, a good couple of games. So that was a big win in Minnesota last night. Very
Yeah,
excited.
definitely was, definitely was. So the first question I want to ask you is, so how long have you been a fan of the Thunder? And are you a fan from the Seattle SuperSonics, or you just became a Sonic? I'm sorry, became a Thunder fan when they moved to Oklahoma City?
Uh, no, I'm from Oklahoma originally. I was born and raised in Tulsa. Um, so whenever the New Orleans Pelicans, when they got, well, I guess they were the Hornets at the time, when they got relocated to Oklahoma City after Hurricane Katrina, my dad and my brother and I, we had season tickets. So we've been supporting Oklahoma City basketball since there was Oklahoma City basketball. Um, and then, yeah, basically when the team moved there, I was just a fan from the jump. So it's been about, this is year 16.
Wow, long time. Okay.
Yeah.
So you see all the ups and downs from the Thunder after all these years, from Durant to Westbrook,
Hmm.
Paul George, Melo, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes, sir.
So
It's a great feeling that when you have somebody in the front office that you can trust and that, you know, we I hate to steal this from the Sixers, but we've been trusting the process for a long time. So it feels good that it's coming together and we're a bit ahead of schedule, honestly.
honestly, me personally, I felt like they was a few years off from being this good. Because last year I was like, oh, they'll be okay. Like I feel like they'll be like kind of like middle of the bottom. You know what I'm saying? But then
Yeah.
when they started to make some noise and then make the play in, I'm like, oh, okay, so this team is better than I expected, honestly.
Yeah, I think whenever I did my preseason, I try to guess the records for every team and kind of guess how the West was going to shake out. I didn't have Oklahoma City. I mean, they won 40 games last year. I had them winning 42 because I just thought the West was going to be such a bloodbath. I thought there was just like, Chet was good, but we're going to make incremental, the jump from 30 to 40 wins is difficult. The jump from 40 to 50 is 10 times harder. And I just didn't really see that they were going to be a 50 win team when they're the second youngest team in the NBA, but they've got 29 wins and 13 and 42 games. That's a good pace.
That's a great pace, honestly. So going off what you said about Chet, do you think he deserves Rookie of the Year despite having the 1 year experience already being in the league?
Yeah, I saw somebody bring that up. I thought that was interesting. But until you step foot on an NBA court, no matter how much experience you have sitting on the bench and watching film and being in the locker room, I really don't think that until you step on the floor and play a game, that you're a rookie. That's just the way it is. I mean, we saw the same thing with Blake Griffin, Joel Embiid. These guys sat out for their entire first year, and they were still in the Rookie of the Year. I'm not sure if Ben Simmons was in that same conversation, but these guys, when they'll tell you that like there's nothing like playing an 82 game schedule with that wear and tear on your body, until you've experienced that for an entire season, you really don't know what it's like to play in the NBA. So, in my opinion, yeah, I think he's the rookie of the year. You look at his numbers, he's 17 points a game. He's grabbing 7 rebounds, leads the team in that. He's 2.5 blocks a game, 3 assists, and his shooting splits are he's 54% from the field, almost 39% from three, and 80% from the free throw line. I mean, the to me, he does everything that Victor Wembanyama's doing, but he's doing it on a team that's winning basketball games, and he's doing it much more efficiently.
I totally agree with that because I never liked the notion that same thing you said about how he's a rookie, but he's been in the league for a season. Like you said, step on the court, that's your rookie year, no matter what.
I completely agree with you. And I mean, I think this is not me taking a shot at Victor Wembanyama by any means. And there's been some impressive rookies. I really like Lively in Dallas, Jaquez in Miami, but I really think this is a two-guy race, and it's just really if Wembanyama has maybe a few more efficient games and gets a little bit more hype. Maybe he makes it, but I really, at this point, and maybe I'm biased, but I really don't even think I don't really think it's a contest at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
He, Chet just does everything that the Oklahoma City lacked last year. He rebounds, he defends the paint. I mean, last year they played basically without a center.
basically,
And
yeah.
yeah, I mean I think that might have been part of the design for Oklahoma City when they were still tanking and still trying to work their way up. But um, he does everything this team needs him to do, and he does it without anything being drawn up for him.
Mm-hmm.
He is not the focal point of the offense by any means. He might not even be the second focal
Yeah,
point of the offense. Yeah, I mean, Jalen Williams, like, is the, he's emerging now in his second year, as the number two, and him and Chet basically run the second and fourth quarter while Shai sits on the bench.
mm-hmm.
Those are increasingly becoming my favorite minutes of the game. Just watching Jalen Williams and Chet run that second unit while Shai sits on the bench. It gives them a lot of confidence, and I think it's going to bode well for when the playoffs start because they can't key in on just Shai if those guys are cooking as well.
Definitely. So going to my next question, because I was going to talk about Jalen Williams as well.
Perfect.
Where do you see his development going? Can you see him being an All Star, All NBA guy?
I could see it. He's got the tools for it. He's got the build for it. It's going to be, incredibly hard to be. I think he could be an all-star. All NBA is incredibly harder. I mean, you see it with some teammates, Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. I could see Maxi and Embiid both being all NBA guys, but you got to think there's 15 spots for all these guys in the league. I mean, the All Star game is 24 players. It's a little bit more expansive. You can include a few more guys, but he's in his second year, averaging 19 a game. And I mean, I didn't even realize this until the other day. He's shooting 46% from three on the
Actually, think
season.
yeah.
46%, which is just, he's so efficient. And I mean, as far as second year guys go, I don't think there's anybody from his draft class that's playing at this high a level already.
Yeah.
And he was drafted with the 11th or 12th overall pick, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I
Around that.
mean, yeah, his efficiency is just I mean, he was a point guard in college. Mark Dagnall seems to trust him running the offense. And, whenever Shai needs a breather, he is the one bringing the ball at the floor and initiating offense and creating for himself. His development has been special. I mean, getting him where they got him, coming out of Santa Clara, not really a lot of hype around him. I do remember I was on Twitter at the time when that pick happened. And I saw a lot of people that were just like, this is a very confusing pick. I don't understand what they're doing or what they saw in this guy. And year two, 19 a game, 4 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 54% from the field, 46 from three, 82% from the free throw line. I mean, the guy just, he's, he was second in rookie of the year last year to Paolo Banchero. And now him and Paolo have very similar looking numbers,
Yeah.
on good teams. So it's been interesting. And in my opinion, it's going to be hard between him and Jalen. I'm sorry, him and Chet, of who's going to be their second max guy, because that's coming.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. When I was thinking about Jalen Williams, I always saw him as like kind of like that connector for this team to make it work. Because
Mm-hmm.
essentially, I think he's playing power forward. When I was looking at the roster, it has
Mm-hmm.
listed power forward. And I'm like, he's only about like 6'7", and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, this makes it work because the flexibility that they have, but put him in that position, it makes the offense work and the defense work because you can
Yeah.
switch everything.
He got these assignments last year. He was guarding LeBron. He's guarding like JJ Redick said on his podcast, he said like there's no like true like lead guards really anymore. I mean, there's a couple, obviously Halliburton, Trae Young, those kind of guys, but
Yeah,
like they're the people who initiate the offense and who are like the ones who are um, kind of the focal points now. They're big wings. So you need big wings to guard big wings. And he's been drawing those assignments since his rookie year. He gets LeBron, he gets Kawhi, he gets the bigger, stronger lead forward guys. And he got that, that's who he's tasked with guarding. And yeah, he plays the power forward position, which I think is, he's when you look at the Oklahoma City lineup, Shea is 6'6", Dort generously is 6'4". Giddy is 6'8", Jalen Williams 6'6", and then there's Chet who's 7 foot 7'1". So I think he's playing out of position, like in the similar way that they've had Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum playing out of position. They've been putting Tatum at the 4, Jaylen Brown at the 3, and I think they're more naturally Tatum's a 3 and Brown as a 2. I think he's playing out of position, but I think he does a really good job. And it's kind of that's Dagnall's style. He just puts these guys out there and he's like, this is who you're guarding. And there's no one who's going to come in and save you. So, like, we're going to put you in these positions and we're going to trust you to do your job. And, if you don't, we're going to put somebody in who can. And I think that's the way that Dagnall's always approached things. And I think it's, iron sharpens iron kind of thing. I think it's making him a better player by having to guard these guys. And it's I think once they have a more natural power forward, he will slide into the 3 position, I think.
yeah, I think so too. Next question with the actual, with the improvement in the team, does Daniel deserve, coach of the year?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Oh, with Daniel making an improvement on the team as the years progress, do you think he should get coach of the year?
I definitely think he's in the conversation. I think he's in the top 3 right now. I really like what Orlando's doing. I think Mosley needs to get a lot of recognition.
I agree.
Uh, yeah, Carlisle is definitely going to be in the conversation. Um, I mean, if Jalen Brunson, with the way he's playing, he might make Thibodeau be in that conversation. And I think there's probably some other guys I'm forgetting. I mean, maybe Chris Finch up in Minnesota
Yeah,
doing an excellent job. I mean, they're number 1 in the West. I don't think anybody. I saw Minnesota being a top 4 team in the West. I didn't see them being this good,
I didn't see
and
him at all, to be honest with you.
it's amazing. Yeah, and I mean, they are. Their defensive rating. They're one of the best teams in like um, defensive rating, which is, I think it's a testament to how he schemed that team. But I think Dagnall's definitely in the conversation. And if they get 50 wins, which is, it's certainly a possibility. They're at 29 with 42 games in the season so far. So if they get 50 wins and they finish a number 2, number 1 in the West, I really don't know how you could deny him that title of Coach of the Year. I think everyone's just overperforming right now, and I've kind of been sitting here thinking that it was going to balance out at some point, and they're going through their roughest stretch. They have 17 games in January, a lot of long road trips. I think there's 5 back-to-backs this month, and they're still 29 and 13. They've
Yeah.
lost a couple of games that I was like, those are ugly. Those are ones that might come back to haunt them maybe down the road. But to keep them focused day to day, I really think he's in the conversation. I think he's a top 3 coach of the year if he's not number 1.
I agree with that because, like I said before, didn't see them on this trajectory this fast. I actually went to a game last year in Washington when OKC played against them, and Shea hit the game winner.
I
And
remember that one.
I was just like, yeah, this team is good. That's what I really thought. Future timeline is going to be really good. But I already knew how good Shea was,
Yeah.
and from there it was just like, okay, like now I can see where they're trying to go, and maybe this is going to be something really sustainable over a period of time.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about the draft picks, but they might already have the team
Mm-hmm.
uh, that that can compete right now. I mean, they're fourth in offensive rating, they're sixth in defensive rating, and they're third in net rating. And if you're going to be a team that's competing for a title, I know there's the old Phil Jackson. You got to win 40 games before you lose 20, or you're not a real contender. But I really like the one where it's like if you're not top 10 in both offensive and defensive rating, then you're not a true contender. And I mean, the teams that are you know in the top 10 in both are they're Boston, they're Philly, they're these are the teams that I look at. They're Denver. Whenever those are the teams that are really going to be competing for a championship, and the only thing that I think can stop Oklahoma City from being a real threat in the West is their inability to rebound. They're 28th in the league in rebounding rate. They're just they give up a lot of second chance points, and it's really frustrating. And those can be really backbreaking when the playoffs come around. But other than that, every statistical measure says that they're ready right now. So, um, yeah, watching them compete and being the second youngest team in the NBA, it's a real testament to guys who have been trusting this process and that have just let this all play out. And I don't know if they've got a move in them this year or if they're just going to let things ride. But I think as far as development goes, they have done everything right. They've missed on a couple of picks, Pokashevsky, Trey Mann. Those guys haven't really become real NBA guys. But those are guys in the middle of the draft that are, in the middle of the first round that are, you take a shot. Maybe these guys work out, maybe they don't. But other than that, I mean, the guys they picked up, you look at the starting lineup, Shai, was a lottery pick. Chet, number 2. Jalen Williams, number 11. Giddy, number 6. Dort, an undrafted guy out of Arizona State. They've done well with the development and the drafting. So um, it's it's nice to be in this position now and knowing that we can make moves going forward.
Yeah. So, if you were the GM for this team right now, what would be your ideal player you go for using the draft picks because they have a bunch of so they can
Yeah,
leverage that as a trade.
absolutely. You know, it's it I think it's more of a periphery kind of thing. It's things on the edge. You know, Me, like everybody else, I really liked OG Anunoby, and I thought, I mean, he's a perfect fit with almost any team because he's
Yeah.
not a guy who demands the ball. He defends at a high level. He can shoot it. I keep looking at the power forward position, and I know we just talked about that. Um, the power forward position, I feel like, is where they're kind of lacking. I don't know if there's anybody. I know guys that would fit, but I don't know about the money, and I don't know about them wanting to be there long term. If they're going to be happy with that role. A Lauri Markkanen is a
Yeah.
guy that I would love to see on OKC. Like, yeah, would he be happy being the third or fourth banana on that team and just shooting corner threes and defending? Probably not. And he's on the last year of his contract, and he's going to get paid. So there's certain guys that fit. If I were the GM right now, I think I might look to move out of this 2024 draft, maybe package some players and some picks and maybe get somebody like a backup center or a backup power forward. But I'm really not inclined to make the big swing that everybody thinks they're going to make right now. I think right now we're playing with house money. When
Yeah.
you're this young and you're already this good, you can just let these things develop because contracts and salary. I don't think they're going to make the same mistake twice like they did with the Harden trade, trying to duck the tax and trying to duck paying somebody. But I also don't think they're in any hurry to make the big swing right now. I think they're very content with letting this build, letting it develop. I mean, Chet's a rookie. Jalen's a second year guy. Giddy's a third year guy. He seems to be the odd man out. He might be the guy that's the centerpiece of the trade if they decide to make one. But when I look around at even who's available, I think it's more of a buyer's, I think it's more of a seller's market than it is. I think a lot of teams are buying. And I think they're looking to upgrade their roster. And I think OKC is content to just sit back and let this play itself out.
Yeah, 'cause I was me personally. I was looking at the roster. I'm like, yeah, they lack size, so maybe they should get another big to help them out. Um,
Mm.
I felt like Focus actually would have got more minutes on this team because I remember they were saying during the offseason they wanted to see a Chet and Poku lined up, be like kind of a Twin Towers type of thing. So I
The,
really
sl-
thought that kind of
the,
panned out.
the Finn Towers, the Finn
Mm-hmm.
Towers. Yeah. I've always been a big believer in the idea of Alexei Pokusevsky. A 7 foot guy with his handle and his ability to create, but it just seems like it hasn't fully translated to being a real NBA player, a real NBA guy. Um, so I mean, I'm disappointed for him. I know he's dealt with a lot of injuries and stuff, but yeah, I would love. I mean, Oklahoma City was running him at center last year, and now we're running Chet Holmgren. I mean, the difference is incredible to see the difference between the two. But Poku was doing a lot of the same stuff. He was swatting things at the rim, being a rim protector, being a connector. And I saw the flashes of it. I think he's still got some potential, but it seems like his career path is emulating more of a bowl. He's interesting. He does a couple of things where you're like, wow, I could see him being a real NBA player. And then it doesn't really translate to winning basketball. So yeah, as much as I would love to see that too, it's more for the memes than it is for the actual for the actual on court product.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So my next question is that the Thunder have a chance to win it all now, and do you think Shea is an MVP candidate? And from KD to Westbrook to Harden, all the MVP candidates that Oklahoma City has developed,
Yeah.
is Shea the next one in line for
Everything says that he is. I think he's a top 5 guy right now. If you're asking me as an objective basketball fan, I think it's Embiid again.
that?
He's just been so incredible, and the way that he's weathered uh losing James Harden, and I think he's become a better basketball player than he was even last year when he won MVP. I think he's a better passer. He's a better creator for his teammates, and they're not nearly as top heavy. But when I look at Shea, I mean, he's 31 points a game. He's 5.5 rebounds, 6 assists. He leads the league in steals. Um, and he just seems like he is unflappable. And if he's the type of guy, he's going to be in the conversation for the next 10 years because his game is going to age so well. It's not based on athleticism. It's not based on bursts of speed or an insane jumping ability. He's going to age with a very low to the ground, shifty. It's a game that's predicated on,
Practice.
yeah, on craftiness and and footwork and his ability to create for not only for himself but for other people. I think that's something that's going to age really well for him. I think he's got an MVP in him. I think he's got one season where the Thunder win 56 games and he's averaging 36 and 6, and he's the best player on the best team, and that's the argument.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of guys that are in his age range and his that are going to be doing the same thing. Jason Tatum, Luka Doncic, Devin Booker. These are guys that are in the same range, the same age range. They're the same, focal points of their offense.
Mm-hmm.
And my preseason pick for MVP was Luka, and I think he's playing outstanding. I think him and Shea are going to be first team All NBA guards for the next several years. I really don't know how anybody else can compete with what these guys are doing on a consistent night in, night out basis. And to look back at drafting 3 MVPs in consecutive drafts and just, looking at what those guys are and what they became. That's why we all trust Sam Presti the way that we do. And we trust him to develop these guys. And I think Shea's got an MVP in him. Maybe not this year, but he's 25. He's going
Yeah.
to be, I think when he's 27 or 28, you might see another MVP trophy in OKC.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm starting to try to make the kicks for him this year because the way they've been playing unexpectedly. You know, like the other teams, Sixers, the Celtics, the Mavericks, we always expect them to have an MVP candidate on their team because of the way they've been playing over the last few years. And
Sure.
with how the Thunder has been playing now, all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have to put him into this conversation. And then for me, honestly, it's like, what is the argument for why he wouldn't get it at this point?
I mean there's not a good argument against it except to say there's just other players who are playing at a very similar high level. It's not a negative against him to say he's not on. We're not saying he's not on Embiid's level. We're saying that like Joel Embiid, the things that you're doing, it's just a step above him, I guess. I don't think there's an argument against it other than just like I prefer this guy. And
Yeah,
it's so hard to win an MVP because it is about narratives and stuff. It is about a media conversation around the MVP. Because, I mean, honestly, I could see a guy like Anthony Edwards being in that conversation sooner rather than later. And then you're just competing with these guys because year in, year out, there's just another guy that's just like, he's emerged now. And you've got to compete against him and make your case and say why you're better than he is. And it's never ending. And just so to watch a guy win two MVPs in a row, like Steph or Jokic or something like that, where it's just like, man, you know how impossibly hard that is to be
yeah,
that great and to be that consistent at that level. It's just, I want to make the argument for him. I'm a homer. I'm here on the behalf of Oklahoma City, but when you look at the league objectively, I'm like, every year I just keep looking. I'm like, how is Giannis not the MVP? And then you go and watch Jokic, and you're like, wow, yeah, maybe Jokic is the MVP. And then it's Embiid, and then it's Luca, and then it's Tatum, and then you're just like, wow, it's a long line for just guys who are playing at an insanely high level. Um, so it's hard to do it, but I think it's certainly possible. And like I said, I don't know. I haven't looked at the NBA ladder, the MVP ladder, but I think he's a number three or number four.
that's what my Chet team was third.
Yeah,
I think it
that
was,
doesn't
if I remember
surprise
correctly, it was Embiid, Giannis, and then Shea. If
me.
I
Hmm.
remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean Dallas was playing well at the start of the year, so I kept saying like I thought my Luca MVP pick was going to look really good. I mean, the guy just plays out of his mind. He's outrageous.
Yeah,
Every time I watch him, I'm just like, that's the best player in the league, and it's hard to argue against it. But yeah, I think it is. I think you have to kind of make a conversation. Like you have to start the narrative, and I think if Oklahoma City was on national TV more, I think they had a big increase in national televised games.
yeah,
I think the more that happens, I think the more the conversation around him is going to pick up. I think the more
mm,
people see him in a casual sense, they'll be like, wow, how is that guy not the best player in the league right now? So I think that'll help.
yeah. They definitely need some more screen time because as
Yes.
good as they are, they deserve it. They've
Yeah.
been balling this year.
It's been crazy to watch, man. I saw this stat and I really wanted to share it with you. This is from Rylan Stiles. He's the does the Locked On Thunder podcast, the daily podcast. And he
Mm,
said that there have been 8 players in the first 41 games of a season who have had 30 plus points 30 times or more.
mm,
So Wilt Chamberlain did it 5 times, which every time I hear a Wilt Chamberlain stat, it sounds made up.
mm,
Michael Jordan did it twice. And then there's Kareem, Nate Archibald, Rick Barry, Elgin Baylor, Luka Doncic, and now Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. 30 games of 30 plus points in your first 41 games. I just love that stat so much because he's just so Shea he's never had a 50-point game in his career, but he also never has games where he has like 8. He just is so consistently 30 points a game. You can almost like pencil it in
yeah.
every game where he's going to get 30 points on high efficiency where he's got more points in the paint than like most centers. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think he's like top 5 in points per game. I
He's
think I
not
said
yeah, he's number 4 in points per game in the paint. And he's behind I think he's behind like they're all it's like Giannis, Jokic. I think he's in front of Embiid actually,
Wow.
which is insane. But yeah, he gets to where he wants to get to with such ease and efficiency, and it just I think that's a big reason why the Thunder are number one or number two. I can't remember, but they're number one or number two in NBA 3 point percentage.
Okay.
There it's them and the Clippers. But like you get a guy like Lou Dort is having a career here behind the arc. Isaiah Joe is one of the best shooters behind the arc right now. We already talked about Jalen shooting 46% from three. And it's because of how defenses have to collapse on Shai and they just leaves these shooters open to just get whatever they want. So at one point this year, the Thunder had 10 guys on the roster that were shooting 40% from three.
Yeah.
it's just
Crazy.
it's so wild.
I remember Chet was shooting about like 50% from three.
Yeah, to start the year. Now, yeah, he's had a weird thing where his free throw percentage, he was at 90% and now he's dropped a full 10 points. And he's
Mhm.
shooting 38.6% from three. I think he might be hitting a little bit of that rookie wall.
Yeah.
I think the All-Star break is going to be really good for him, even though he's probably going to compete in the Rising Stars game.
Mhm.
If he's not an All-Star, which I think the last time I checked, he was ninth in the front court. So I don't think he's going to make the All-Star game, but I think he's definitely going to be at All-Star weekend. But I think the rest is going to be good for him because he really needs to take some time off and get his body right so that he's ready for the end of the year push.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think that the the Walls probably hitting some of the rookies right now. It
Mm-hmm.
would be very beneficial for him, especially the physicality of the game and how skinny he is. So that would really take a benefit on him.
Yeah, I think the his position just makes it even harder. I mean, he's down there banging with the likes of Gobert and like Gobert last night, Embiid, and yeah, I mean Jokic said he needs to get fatter. He needs to get fatter. Yeah. And Chet just like he's just like, I don't even know where I'd put it. If I put some fat on, I don't even know if he was 220 pounds. I can't even imagine what that would look like. I feel like he's gonna have that Kevin Durant type body for
Yeah.
his whole life. I mean, Kevin Durant's definitely gotten stronger. He's become a better rim protector. He put on weight, but when he came in the league, everyone was like, that guy's 190 pounds. He's gonna get pushed around. And sometimes he did, but now as he's grown up and developed his body, uh, I think that's going to be Chet. I don't think he's ever going to be like a 250 guy. I think he's going to be 220, 230. And I think it just matches right with his frame. So I think you just have to, I read an article about, I'm sorry.
Match with his game as well because
Oh
his
yeah,
baseball.
absolutely. I think you can still be a rim protector and you can still be physical, but without being, you know, you don't have to be Joel Embiid's weight. I think they've got different body types, and it's just going to be that's just not the kind of person that he's ever going to be. But I think I read an article that Victor Wembanyama that he has this program that he's in where like he does more stretching and he's working on his flexibility so that he doesn't get injured with how big he is. And I think Chet Holmgren would really benefit from something like that. I think he had something like that coming into the league. It's not as well publicized, but he's the type of guy that he works on his body all the time, but not in the way that you and I maybe would think that he should. He's not in the weight room just bulking up with big weight. He's in there. He's doing a lot of like flexibility and working on it being more limber rather than being the type of guy that's, going to bench press 400 pounds. That's not going to be him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, totally agree with that. The Thunder have been uh, Cinderella story, to say the least. I want to thank you for being on my podcast today. Drop your threads handle for us, where we can find you at.
oh, my threads handle. I got to really work on that. That thing is so long. I wish I didn't connect it to my Instagram account, but it's ain't underscore that underscore a underscore cook. My last name is Kuck underscore in the head with more underscores. I'm on threads. I'm talking about the Thunder all the time, interacting with Jared here. And I just wanted to say, man, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's really cool that you're doing this. It's really cool that you're inviting people on to talk about their favorite teams. And I really appreciate you. letting me do this. And I had such a blast doing this with you, man. I hope we get to do it again soon.
Yes, definitely. Thank you for being on. It's a pleasure having you on. We're definitely going to do this again when playoff time comes around. That's when we're going to get back on and talk about it.
I'm so excited for the playoffs, man. Looking forward to it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. Have a good one.
All right. Appreciate you.